welcome back to the Quantum Alignment Show. Hang on, let me get out of all these things. Am I still live here, Cindy? Is it all working?
It's all working. It's still live.
All right, awesome. So I had a great, happy new moon, Tanya. I had a great summer hanging out with my 10-year-old projector, and she goes back to school next week, which I have mixed feelings about because I really enjoy spending time with her a lot because she's a really cool human being. And I missed you guys. I missed the Quantum Alignment Show. I also, though, am really, really humbled and honored that I got to create space for you guys to listen to so many great teachers this summer and so many great interviews. I got to listen to everybody's Quantum Alignment Show that they did, and it was amazing. So I hope that you got a really good chance to learn from all these different human design experts. If you didn't get a chance, if you missed some of our great shows over the summer, if you're on the Facebook page and you go over to the left, there's a little tab there that has all kinds of little things. If you click on the videos tab, it'll actually take you to the archive videos of this summer's presentations. And we had some really amazing, amazing presentations. So go watch anything that you may have missed. And today, we're going to start off the fall season with a powerful topic all about how to become an influencer. And we're going to be speaking about your natural creative energy and how you can harness that energy to direct the forces of the universe. So let's get started because I want to make sure we have enough time to cover everything. If you are watching on Facebook, Cindy just posted the link to the slide handouts if you want to print the slide handouts or follow along with. And if you are watching on Zoom, she posted those in the chat. So you can follow along with us with the slides if you want to, or take notes if you want to, or go back later and follow along later. So, all right. Oops. Why is this blank? Oh, because this is a weird slide. There you go. Here's our topic for today. Dun, dun, dun. Influence. And when we talk about influence, you know, it seems to be that thing that everybody asks me about. People want to know, how can I influence other people to give me something to respond to or to give me an invitation? How can I influence other people to listen to my ideas and my thoughts? How can I take what I know, my ideas, my thoughts, my inspirations, and be influential in expressing them out into the world? How do I become more influential with who I am? So this is the first of a two-part series, and my intention today is to really set a foundational understanding of how influence really works and why the nature of how we become influential is changing, and it has nothing to do with social media. So you can kick back and relax. You could be completely influential and not be on social media at all. So I'm going to set the stage for you to go into an even deeper conversation about influence next week, and specifically next week, we're going to talk about how to influence divine timing. And what is the power of your type to influence? How does your unique type influence? Because we do influence in different ways, but you all influence. All right. You are all potentially influential. Actually, not potentially. You are influential. Period. The end. You're influential. The question is, how can you gain more control over your influence so that you can use it deliberately and consciously? So I love this. I found this on Facebook this week, and I just had to snag it, and I don't know where I got it, and I apologize for not giving any who I snag it from credit. I think I got it out of a human design relationship group on Facebook, and I apologize for not crediting the person who shared this, and I certainly don't know where it came from, but it's really, really powerful because this is truly a great visual representation of influence. So let's talk about influence for a second from the perspective of science. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the science of happiness as sort of our opening conversation. And here's what science shows us. If your neighbors are happier or happy, you are actually likelier to be happy. In fact, you're 60% more likely to be happy if your neighbors are happy. If your friends are happy, same thing. Actually, your friends are even more influential than your neighbors. You're likelier to be happy. If your friends have happy friends, not just if they're happy, but if they have happy friends, maybe they're a curmudgeon, but if they have happy friends, you're still likelier to be happy. According to an extensive 2-decade-long study conducted by researchers at the University of California, San Diego, happiness is not only highly contagious, online communities, and by the way, right now, in this moment, you're in an online community. We're all together, and we are magnifying the intensity of the global emotional synchrony, and I'm hoping that we're excited and happy to be here, and we're amplifying that intensity of excitement and co-creation, because we all created this event together when we understand the physics of it, and the joy of reconvening after summer. How's that? But here's the thing. Research shows that negativity is also contagious, but it's weird that it's contagious if you understand physics. So we're going to unpack this, because I think that in the energy that we're in right now, this is a place where we have got to drill down deep and figure out, why is this negative energy that is so pervasive and insidious causing us to continue to spread this negativity? You all know it. We've all been around it. We are watching social media. We're watching the news. We're listening to people. There's a wave of negativity rolling through the planet right now, and many of us are fighting it. We're trying to protect ourselves from it. We're trying to not read the news, not go on social media. We're trying to keep ourselves from being infected by it. But here's the piece that I want to unpack for the rest of this hour. Higher frequencies of energies. This is basic physics. Higher frequencies of energies can penetrate lower frequencies of energies. This is actually, if you study homeopathy, or you have you study any kind of energy modality, or if you understand the power of intention, when you have a good healer, that your healer's power of intention and the frequency of their energy actually lifts your frequency of energy and brings you into a greater aligned, greater, higher vibrational state. That's because your lower frequencies, your misaligned frequencies, the places where you may be carrying miasms in your auric field, if you're doing homeopathy, those places, those lower frequency places, can be penetrated by higher frequencies and lifted up. But in physics, what we know is that lower frequencies of energy cannot penetrate higher frequencies of energy unless we allow them to. Now, please know that my intention in talking about this today is to really be mindful. Actually, I'm going to get out of the slides for a minute, because I want you to really, I want to see you when I say this. There's a lot of conversation, and has been for decades, I think, ever since the movie The Secret. It's gotten to be a louder conversation. A lot of conversation about mindset and attitude and positive thinking, and a lot of sometimes blaming on people, like, oh, well, you have this problem because you had this thought, or you're having this fun money problem because of this thought, or you're having this relationship issue or health issue because you had these dark thoughts. Or that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to, the mind is not really a literal magic wand. You have a thought, poof, it creates. And actually, we'll explore that a little bit more too. And there's something else going on that makes us vulnerable to negative energy and to being influenced rather than being influencing with our energy when it comes to negative vibes. All right, so let's get back to the slides. So when I say unless we allow them to, this isn't like I'm blaming you for having stinking thinking and you need to grow up and stop having bad thoughts. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have to explore what's going on that makes it easier for us to go more to the dark side than to the light side sometimes. This is a quotation from Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish man who survived the Holocaust. He, in the course of the Holocaust, lost everything, including his wife and his mother. somewhere in the middle of his experience of being in a concentration camp, he made a decision to not let the experience of being in the concentration camp break him. And it's the quotation from him. It says, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Now, the reason why I'm bringing up Viktor Frankl is a little bit of a rant, I'm going to go on a tiny human design rant. Because in human design, when we start talking about types, or we start talking about definition, or we start talking about aspects in the chart like splits and quadruple splits and this profile and that profile, there's a common personal narrative, common narrative that's happening in the human design community about how hard or how bad it is for different types and how certain energy configurations are really challenging and difficult. And if you're this kind of energy, forget it, it's too hard. I want to show you this especially because I love projectors. I love projectors. For the first 12 years of my business, when I did readings, I almost only did readings for projectors. I was married to a projector for 17 years. I've been raising as projector. I hope I get the power of the projector. I'm learning more and more every day, living with a 10-year-old projector and being nicely managed now at this stage of my life. But we talk a lot about things being difficult for different types and different energies. I want to show you Viktor Frankl's chart, just because I want you to see that this is the design of an emotionally defined projector who has, really not a particularly challenging chart per se, other than he was a projector. He wasn't a third line profile. All the things we talk about that are terrible and hard. He wasn't a third line profile. He was a projector. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes when we talk about projectors especially, but all the types, we get lost in but it's really hard for this type. And I want you to understand that your type and the definition of your type isn't meant to be a handicap or something that makes life more challenging for you. The only thing your type really informs you about is the way in which you interact with the universe. And as we go through the rest of the material today, I want you to really explore for yourself where perhaps consciously or unconsciously, and again, this isn't something you're doing wrong. This is about going on a loving journey of open curiosity to explore where perhaps we have limiting stories, memories, ancestral memories that might be holding us back from really fully expressing the full potential of the way in which we can interface with the universe and all the good that is actually raining down on us right now. Why do we embrace negativity so easily? To a certain degree, it's kind of not your fault. It's in your hardwiring. Okay? It's in your hardwiring. So when we look at human design, and you all are going to pull out your charts right now and start looking at, oh my God, do I have any of this in my chart? Let me just remind you that you all have all of the charts. Some of you are going to have more definition, more things colored in this part of your chart. Some of you are going to have more parts of this chart open. Either way, you have the logical circuit. And I promise you, because of the way our collective systems and structures are put in place, you are all deeply, deeply conditioned by logic. Logic is reasoning. Logic is the part of the brain that's responsible for the scientific system, or the part of the energy field that's responsible for the scientific system, methodology. This is where we have experimentation and research and things that are proven to be valid once we do research, and we've researched them over and over again so we can prove without a doubt that we can get these duplicable results, because logic is also all about patterns. If you went to school in a school system, that's a logical structure. If you go to the hospital and you get treatment, you're in the medical care system, that's a logical system. We have a government system, we have a tax system. Anything that has a system attached to it is logical. Now, the root of logic or contained within logic are some key energies that we have to look at. First of all, the spleen, notice that it's the left side of the chart, right? The spleen center is part of logic. The spleen center is where we hold our base instinctive nature. It's the pulse, where we hold the pulse for survival, and the pulse that indicates when we need to take some kind of action to defend our lives and our safety. The pulse of the spleen is fear, and under genuinely life-threatening circumstances, the pulse of fear that the spleen gives us is a pulse that causes us to take some kind of immediate life-saving action. And that's actually how the spleen is supposed to work. At the very top of the logical system, we start the entire stream of logic in the chart with the gate 63. The gate 63 is called the gate of doubt and suspicion. And if you go back and you think about logical systems like the scientific methodology, in the scientific method, we start off with, a hypothesis, right? And the goal of the hypothesis is to either prove or disprove it, right? The nature of science is, to a certain degree, somewhat doubtful and suspicious until you can prove without a doubt that the pattern can be duplicated a mathematically valid number of times, right? When we become conditioned by logic, we tend to operate more out of fear, doubt, and suspicion. Okay? Logic has built into it science, systems, patterns, and habits. It is, to a certain degree, a survival-based circuit. Because when we understand the patterns and the predictable patterns, we can start to make decisions around what we think the patterns are going to be. So when you have a garden, I have a garden, it's the end of the summer, I'm in harvest season in my garden, right? I just pulled out a whole big bucket full of delicata squash out of the garden. When you have a garden, you plant in May. Here in Minnesota, we plant in May. If, God willing, the frost is done by May, right? And you start your seedlings inside, and you know that summer's coming, and you know that's the rhythm, and you got to get those seedlings in the ground and get the garden started because you get this little short window before it starts to snow again, right? I understand the nature's patterns, and I can plan accordingly. I said that is an important way to understand it. Plan accordingly. As we have become a more evolved and conscious species, we're not instinctual, right? We're not instinctual. We can plan. We can think ahead. We can explore things in a rhythmic way. Survival is not just reacting instinctively to something that's coming at you. It also is the ability to anticipate the pattern and prepare for it. And the way that often gets translated for us is when we expect the worst, we can be prepared for it. So to a certain degree, when we look at the neuroscience of how the brain functions, it's actually evolutionarily adaptive for us to be prepared constantly for the worst because it gives us a greater ability to survive. So our hardwiring says, let's find all the potential negative outcomes and get ready for them because it'll keep us alive longer. So it's not necessarily your fault. It's part of your survival instinct, okay? Now, I have to take this back a step further because remember, I'm laying the foundation for you this week, and next week we'll continue to build on that foundation and go more specifically into the chart. In the human design system, it's rooted in several ancient esoteric sciences, and one of those is the Hindu chakra system. The Hindu chakra system is a component of the human design system. In the Hindu chakra system, there are 7 chakras. Each chakra is an energy center, and each energy center in the chakra system is responsible for processing different archetypes of energy. In human design, what we know is that in the 1780s, the heart chakra, the green one, the heart chakra split. And the yellow one, the top yellow one, the solar plexus chakra, also split. So if you've ever wondered, like, what's the correlation between the Hindu chakra system and the 9 centers in human design, the G center and the will center, that's the image on the left, the yellow diamond and the red triangle. The G center and the will center are the result of the heart chakra splitting. The solar plexus and the emotional and the spleen center, the 2 triangles on the left and the right, the mirror images of each other, are the split version of the solar plexus chakra. This split actually sets us up for the next cycle in our evolution, which we are right smack dab in the middle of. So if you have ever felt or like things are changing rapidly, the world is changing rapidly, or you have felt like we're in a shift, or you've been thinking about something called the shift, or you've been studying it, this is a big part of the shift. And it isn't something that's just happened now. It's something that we've actually been evolving towards for hundreds of years now. What happened with this shift is this. The emergence of the will center in particular, that's the little red triangle here, shifted our perspective. It actually came at the end of the scientific revolution, and it shifted our perspective and made us really focused on trying to understand the material world. This is what I'll call material consciousness. So we'll say around the 1700s, we have the birth of material consciousness. Then that's a companion consciousness that went right along with the work of Sir Isaac Newton and all the great thinkers of the scientific revolution. Material consciousness is rooted around some basic concepts, finite amounts and solutions, for example. Material consciousness is run with fixed laws, probable, possible, and predictable results. It's based on formulas, reasoning, logic, nature, natural law, and it is driven by a drive of certainty. When we have logic running the show and we have science running the show, we want certainty, right? We have a drive for certainty. We're really uncomfortable when we don't know under material consciousness. The currency of this materialistic era is material value, and we've translated that into money for the most part. Money and belongings have been the measurement or the metric of value in our world. And if we want to create anything based on our material consciousness, we create it through willpower in the material world, and that usually translates to hard work. So if we think about that in the context of being influential, it means we have learned, most of us, especially if you're in business, you have learned that if you want to be of influence in the world, that you have to go do the work of being influential. And that oftentimes translates to networking. And you can see on this slide, my perspective on networking, right? I just can't think of anything else I would not like to do more than networking. You know, you think about it, you go to a conference or you go to a workshop, some of you, especially again, those of you in business, you might print up business cards. I don't know how it is for you guys. When I first started in business when I was in my 20s, I took this little networking class. Oh my gosh, they taught you like, keep your business cards in your left pocket and shake like this, and you take the card. I mean, there was like this whole like handshake dance thing you did with business cards for networking. It's weird. Anyway, bottom line, networking. Now, I know that for many of you, networking is like, cool, yay. All the fourth line profiles who don't have a 6 attached to their fourth lines, they may be excited about networking, maybe. Many of you probably feel the same way about networking as I do. And if you are a waiting type, that means if you're a manifesting generator, a projector, or a reflector, like almost everyone, going out and networking isn't necessarily a natural way for you to go be influential, nor is splashing yourself all over social media, pushing your way into people's lives, doing sales, whatever it is that we qualify as being influential. It doesn't feel natural to do it that way. And it's not a skill set. It's an energy thing. So, because I want to lay the foundation really, really clearly, I want to stop right here for just a minute and do a quick summary. Number 1, happiness is contagious, and so are other positive emotions. Number 2, high frequencies influence each other naturally and lift lower frequencies up. We choose, not necessarily consciously, we choose to let lower frequencies influence us because we're hardwired for negativity, because it's part of our survival mechanisms. In material consciousness, influence comes from a direct result of the work that you do, but we're evolving. Good news for all of you who hate networking. We're evolving, okay? Enter, in the early 1900s, the quantum era, which went hand in hand with the emergence of quantum physics as a recognized science. What we see when you study evolution, and I don't know if any of you have ever read the book, I think it's called The Physics of Art, or Art and Physics. I think that's it, Art and Physics. Go read that book if you haven't read it. Because how we create and express in the world is a manifestation of consciousness. When consciousness evolves, it changes what we create in the world and how we create in the world. So quantum science was really an artifact of our consciousness, our collective consciousness evolving. And once quantum science kind of burst on the field, it also burst into our awareness in lots of many different arenas, including in art and including in religion. In the 1920s, we saw the emergence of what we call the New Thought movement, where we had thought leaders such as Ernest Holmes, Edgar Cayce, Madame Blavatsky. Actually, she was a little bit earlier. Rudolf Steiner was a little earlier too. A little bit later on, Maria Montessori. All these people who began to, in some way, shape, or form, teach us that thoughts create our reality, not your networking, right? Not networking. That we're all connected by virtue of the quantum field. That we create non-locally, meaning you can create without physically doing the work, that we have the potential to all be fundamentally creative, which means we have the potential through our creative expression to break free from the patterns that our instincts are telling us we have to be aware of, that well-being becomes the currency of the expression of our value, and we learned, or we are still learning, some of us, me, to embrace change, uncertainty, and potential. The currency of this new era, and we're in the middle of it. And, you know, human evolution by human perspectives takes time. It's actually just like a little teeny, like, it's an afternoon on the time map of the planet. But in our experience, it takes hundreds of years sometimes. And the currency of this era is well-being, and we are in the middle of living into that. The more well-being we embody, the greater our influence. So let's explore that a little bit. You're a magnetic being, and I'm going to show you how that works in human design in just a minute. But as I said, the thing that has always amused me the most about human design is that when we first learn our type, one of the things, first of all, we go, oh, that makes so much sense. That's always the first thing we say. And that's cool, right? The second thing, though, that we start to do is we start to go, oh, here are all the things I can't do. Here are all the things that are hard for me. Here are all the things that my type isn't good at. Instead of going, wow, every single person on the planet, manifestors, manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, are all designed in their own unique way to experience from the outer reality a tractor beam of goodness coming at them. And what the type shows you is how you interact with that tractor beam of goodness. That's what it shows you. It doesn't show you what you're not and what you're not good at. I mean, that's part of it, because that's how you discover where you are good at things and what you really need to do to fulfill who you are and kick in that interface between you and the flow of cosmic goodness headed your way. But we don't talk about that a lot in human design. And I feel responsible for that as a human design teacher for 20 years. So I'm going to start changing the way I talk about that, because I want you to get that you have a unique interface with the cosmic flow of goodness. And that's the real purpose of your human design, is to figure out that interface. And you're a magnetic being. By the way, I looked for stock photos about tractor beams. And I'm thinking that maybe a tractor beam comes from Star Trek, and there are not a lot of Trekkies who do eye stock photos. Is that right, Cindy?
I was going to say, I got the reference to tractor beam right away.
I know. I knew you would. Yes, the star people run the show here. All right. So let's explore for a minute power in the human design chart. And again, I just want to say this, because a lot of times when we talk about human design, we talk a lot about, well, I don't have this and I don't have that in my chart. You have all the chart, just like in your mitochondria of your cells. You have the entire human genome. You have all of the human potential in you. You have all of the archetypes of the human potential in you. There's no part of the chart you don't have. The difference is you have it colored in or open. You have it consistent in your definition, your colored in parts, or you have it in a variable, expansive way in your openness, but you have it all. Okay, you have it all. When we look at power in the chart, and again, I will tell you that I'm guilty of this, and I'm really committed to not doing this anymore. If I see somebody that comes to me and they have a chart and all these 4 centers are colored in, the will center, the sacral, which is the red square, the solar plexus on the right, which is the emotional energy, and the root center. These are the 4 motors in the human design chart. I see somebody with that colored in the chart, I'm like, whoa, that's a powerful person. Who's not a powerful person? You're here, aren't you? Do you know how powerful it is for you to take the essence of who you are on a soul level and poof, bring it into a human form and live this story? You're powerful. You're so powerful. You created this computer or phone or laptop in front of you. You pulled that into your life experience somehow. You are connecting in this giant field of people. You are powerful, and whether this is colored in or open in your chart has nothing to do with if you're powerful. It tells you how you're powerful. So let's be clear on that. When we look at these 4 motors, the will center, the emotional solar plexus, the sacral, and the root center, the sources of power in the blueprint for the human story, what we see is that all of these energy centers are responsive in some way by nature. And I'm not saying responsive in the human design way, I'm saying responsive in the English language way. The will center responds when it has energy and resources. If it doesn't, it's burned out and it has a hard time pushing with will. The emotional solar plexus responds when the emotional energy is aligned and correct. Otherwise, you're reacting and you're not creating, you're probably destroying. The root center reacts when the timing is right. And the sacral center, it gets turned on in response, even though it's the most powerful motor in the entire chart. Nothing in this says gird your loins and go out and make it happen. Nothing in this says manifest your destiny. Even manifestors don't really manifest that way. They still have to wait for that inner alignment, that connection between their own awareness and their inner creative flow before they can go do something. They still have to be in the right flow of cosmic timing. When we look at the mechanics of the law of attraction in the chart, what we see is that your thoughts, by the way, law of attraction is a different way of saying being powerful, okay? Your thoughts trigger a flow of neurotransmitters. When you have a thought, if I say a word to you, if I say chocolate to you, your brain immediately in response to the word chocolate creates a photon storm of light, because you're a light being literally. That photon storm causes your brain to produce neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters in turn produce a specific emotional response to the word that I just said. And that emotional response, the kind of emotional response you have, is going to be regulated by the meanings that you hold around that word, the experiences you've had, the emotions you have around that word, the beliefs you have around that word. Like if I say chocolate and you're on a diet and you're like, oh, I want chocolate so bad, but I can't because I don't really like my body the way it is. That's going to trigger a whole different set of emotional responses than if I think chocolate, because I'm thinking, hey, it's Friday and on Friday, I'm going to let myself have a piece of chocolate cake to go with my glass of wine tonight at the end of the week, because that's my routine. Okay. So I have a different emotional response maybe than somebody who's hungry for chocolate right now and feels like they can't have it because it'll make them feel bad about themselves. Your specific emotional response calibrates the heart chakra, the willpower, and the G center. It calibrates your heart. And located in the heart of who you are in the G center is a magnet. Okay, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Hopefully we'll talk about that. Now I'm having a panic because I'm wondering if my slide, this morning I had the worst tech issues. All my slides disappeared. I had to start all over again. It was like, I've never told you guys this story, I don't think, but when I first wrote the human design book, my littlest daughter was a newborn. And I think I was really chronically sleepy, and I wrote the whole book and I didn't back it up, and I lost the entire document. And I had to rewrite the whole book in 6 weeks, which probably made it a better book, honestly. But there is a magnet that lives inside the G center called the magnetic monopole. It is a magnet that only attracts. There is a magnetic force in the heart of who you are that only attracts. But you calibrate it. It's calibrated by the energies of the G center, or the gates of the G center. And again, you all have all the gates in the G. Basically, it goes like this. You're going to allow yourself to create or attract in your life things that match the level and the quality of self-love that you have, things that match the power or your sense of empowerment. So if you feel powerless, it's going to be difficult for you to attract circumstances into your life that make you feel empowered. You're going to attract into your life things that reflect the level of authenticity that you are expressing into the world. So if you're hiding who you are in the world, you're going to attract things that are a mirror image of the fake self you're presenting and not the authentic self you really want to be. If you are stuck in an old story and you're not letting go of your old stories and you're not doing your forgiveness work, you're going to be attracting that same story over and over again. When you can access the power of you are responsible, or you are able to retell your personal narrative each and every day if you choose, and change your point of attraction, then you're golden there. You will attract to the degree to which you trust source. If you don't trust that you're supported, if you don't trust that you're loved, if you don't trust that you are so precious and valuable in the cosmic plan that the universe is falling all over itself backwards to make sure your life story gets expressed, then what you're attracting will reflect that in your life. You will attract to the degree of the vitality that you hold. Meaning, if you don't love your body, or you're not taking care of your body, or if your body's tired, it's going to influence what you attract. And that's very important for us to explore, particularly if we are a type that doesn't have access to a lot of consistent energy. So if you're a projector or a reflector, for example, you might find that when you're tired, things stop showing up. You can't influence things as well as you can usually, because your real need is for self-care first. You are only going to attract into your life to the degree to which you trust in your support, and actually to the degree to which you're grateful and appreciative for what you have. That influences your point of attraction. And you're only going to attract to the degree to which you are willing to share who you are, not what you have necessarily, unless you have more than enough, because you're not supposed to sacrifice yourself. Martyrdom is over. That's a materialistic era thing. You are designed to share who you are with the world to increase the goodness of the world around you. When you're aligned with that, then you increase your alignment with that tractor beam of goodness. If we take the human design chart and we mix it up in a blender, and we put all the gates, all the channels, all the centers, all the types, all the lines, all the profiles, all the pieces of the chart, and we put it in a big blender, what we would get after we emulsified that entire human thing is 9 core archetypes, or 9 key energies that, when they function at the highest level, increase the quality of the influence you have in your life. Okay? I'm going to go through these, and the Climate Show is so short. I hate that it's so short. I want to just hang out with you guys forever. But I'm going to make sure you get to have your Friday afternoon back, and I'm going to go get my cake later today. But I'm going to go through these 9 resiliency keys. I'm hoping that you will give yourself the gift, especially today with this new moon energy, that you will give yourself the gift to really sit with each one of these resiliency keys and authentically explore for yourself. Are you experiencing the highest potential expression of these 9 core human energies? And if not, I want you to really explore how perhaps these might be influencing your experience of feeling influential and being influential. So lovability is the first one. Do you believe that you can be loved? I'll go through these a little bit slowly. Empowerment is the second resiliency key. Do you feel like you have control over your life? The third one is courage. Do you allow yourself to embrace the unknown with courage, or do you let fear keep you from fulfilling your joy? The fourth one is decisiveness. Do you know how to choose what's right for you? And this is an easy one when you know your human design, right? Do you understand your type and your strategy and your authority? Emotional wisdom is the next one. Does emotional energy keep you from acting deliberately, or are you reacting all over the place? Self-trust. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself to do what's right and good for yourself and for others? Vitality. Are you fully expressing your vitality and your energy? Do you feel vibrant and alive on a physical level? Authenticity. Are you fully expressing who you are? Here's the thing. Your soul wants you to live this story you're living in. And if you're hiding or compromising or settling for less than, you could get away with that for a little bit. But at a certain point, it's going to come right smack back dab in your face, because you're going to attract things into your life that are going to show you, hey, this isn't who you really are. And last but certainly not least, self-worth. Do you value yourself? One of the things that I can tell you without a doubt is that you will radically amplify your capacity to influence your life, the people around you, and the world when you work on these 9 core keys. When you can lift yourself up to a higher expression of these energies, it changes the impact you have on the people around you. If you're not living out the high expression of the 9 resiliency keys, you're going to have unmet energy needs. And those unmet energy needs are going to corrupt your influence and misalign your energy. Your human design shows you that each and every one of you is here to contribute to the world in a unique way, and that we're all uniquely hardwired. But most of us are taught that there's only one way to be successful or healthy or to make a meaningful contribution in the world. When we learn to hide who we are, when we compromise our desires, when we give up what's most natural for us in order to try to be successful in a healthy way, in an unhealthy way, in the rigid way that we've been taught, we start to form what's called protective identities. You start to be someone you're not, to keep that authentic part of you safe and sometimes buried. That starts you living a life where you're out in the world not being who you are. And when you're not being who you are, you use an enormous amount of energy to maintain an identity that isn't true to who you are. Every time you say yes to something you really want to say no to, every time you try to be something or someone you're not, every time you make a choice that feels wrong, but you do it anyway because you think you should do it, anytime you give up a dream or a desire, anytime you nurture someone else at cost to yourself or to circumstances that actually take you away from your joy and your authentic self, you use an enormous amount of energy. And when you use your vital life force energy to maintain a facade and inauthentic choices, you're going to eventually burn out and sabotage everything in your life, including your health. Pain is the signal that our authentic self sends the inauthentic self as an indicator that there's a disconnect happening. The greater the pain in your life, the greater the amount of disconnect. Your pain is telling you you're off course, and it's helping you realize that you might need some serious course correction. We create with emotional energy, by the way, on the right side of the chart, not the logical circuit. The logical circuit isn't creative. And think about it. I mean, it has certain degrees of creativity. It has mastery in it. But it isn't creative in the way that the right side of the chart is. And when we talk about the shift and what's happening to us as our energy field is literally going through this surge in our evolutionary growth and a change in the way in which we're hardwired, what we're seeing is the nature of our emotional energy and how we use it is shifting and changing. Our emotions now have the potential to be regulated, to be stabilized, and we are learning as a species to use emotional energy deliberately and consciously as our creative force. which means we're also on the edge of a creative revolution that's going to allow us to create beyond what logic, the patterns of logic, the science of logic tells us is possible. We can also draw on this emotional energy as a source of healing and as a tool to use to heal the way in which we think about who we are and the capacity for us to align ourselves with positive, influential energy. So let's talk first. Remember, fear and doubt, just a little review, is rooted in the logical circuit. Possibility and possibility thinking is rooted on the right side of the chart, the sensing circuit. The sensing circuit, this right side of the chart, I'll show you again. Remember, you all have all of this, right? The sensing circuit defies logic. This is where miraculous things happen because this is the place where we break patterns, where we shatter limitations, where we shatter preconceived ideas and expectations, and we go beyond what we think is possible on this side of the chart. This is where we store stories and experiences, where we set the emotional tone and the narrative that determines what we attract. It conditions that magnetic force in your heart and what we believe is possible. If you want to write a new story about what's possible for yourself, including the story that says, I am a powerful global influencer, we have to use this right side of the brain. I want to just give you an example. This is one of the things that I love to do. I want to give you guys this as a homework assignment too. One of the things I love to do is I like to go on what I call a miracle hunt, especially when I'm feeling down about the world. Instead of reading, I do read the news. I actually don't feel like the news drags me down. I feel like I have an obligation to read it because I like to bear witness to it so that I'm holding a compassionate space for the people who are impacted by the events of the day. Some of you may not be there yet, and that's okay. And sometimes I like to go look for miracles on the internet, and I encourage you to do that. Go look for miracles. There are some fabulous miracles on the internet. Here's one I found today. This one you may have remembered. This was in the news a couple of years ago. There was a young mother who lost control of her car and landed in the icy Spanish Fork River in Utah. And she was in the car with her 18-month-old daughter, Lily. And Lily, they had been in the car had been submerged for 14 hours. And the responders were looking for her, the EMS and police were looking for her, and rescuers were walking along, and this didn't happen just to one rescuer, it happened to many rescuers. This group of rescuers were walking along the river, and they heard a voice. And that voice sounded like an adult woman saying, help me, help me. And they were astounded. They were like, okay, there's this woman yelling, help me, help me. So they went down to the river, and they saw in the river the submerged car, and they immediately got the divers, and they went in, and they found inside of the submerged car, the mom had been killed on impact. The daughter, the 18-month-old daughter, was hanging upside down in this car in the river and had been hanging there for 14 hours, was alive and well in her car seat. And the rescuers couldn't figure out who was this, where did this voice come from, this woman's voice that called them down to the car. I just think this is a cool story because I think it's the testament of the love of a mother and what the power of the love of a mother can do, because I totally believe that the mom's spirit was calling to the rescuers to go retrieve her daughter out of the water. Miracles defy logic, okay? Miracles defy logic. They cause us to expand our perception of what's possible, and they allow us to grow into new patterns and habits. You can harness the power of storytelling to start changing those places where you're limiting yourself from allowing yourself to believe that you can live as the full expression of who you truly are. The human brain and life forms such as dogs have what's called bilateral symmetry. What happens on one side of the body has the potential to affect the other side. Here's the brain. It has two halves. You have the left side. This is the logic circuit on the left. You've got the sensing circuit on the right side. This is where our creative essence lives, right? Remember, the left side is riddled with fear and doubt. The right side has storytelling in it. So when we draw on the left side, when we try to figure things out, when we try to use our logic, when we're working on trying to break patterns, or we even, and this is the tricky part, even looking at human design, when we really look at human design, it's called the human design system. It has logic in it. It's a system. And it has the potential to stick you over here in this left side of the brain and look for the patterns and be stuck in the patterns. And it doesn't always, if you're not really careful about how you think about it, it doesn't always leave you open to exploring the possibilities of what else is available to you. When we work strictly with the left side of the brain, and we go to, we go and we focus on analyzing the patterns, oftentimes what happens, because the brain is hardwired to go back to focusing on fear and doubt because it's part of our survival instinct, it actually causes us to go into greater fear and doubt and increase our creative response. If we play on the right side of the brain and begin to explore the power of storytelling, we actually increase the possibility and power of changing the story and increase our creative response. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I want you to start entertaining the possibility of telling new stories about who you are, even if you don't know how you're going to make those stories come true yet, that allow you to craft a narrative that is the true story of who you really are. Why? Because, let me take a pause here for a minute. I've given you so much data, I'm giving you a pause here to just integrate for a minute. This, by the way, is the view from the top of Humphreys Peak in Flagstaff, Arizona at sunrise, where last year at the Quantum Leadership Activation, we actually climbed up, we didn't climb, we drove up Humphreys Peak. We took a big basket of all of our old stories written down on papers. We dug a hole in the ground and we burned them at sunrise as a way of symbolizing our emergence into a new personal narrative. Everyone wants to be themselves. You want to be who you really are. That, I think, is the core driver for every human being on this planet. When you live as yourself, when you're telling yourself a personal narrative that is true about who you are, or when you're living into an expansive, brand new personal story about who you could be, who you want to be, who you dream of being, and you start holding that space for that story to be true, even if you don't know how, you begin to increase your influence. Authentic people are influential. They radiate alignment, and remember the currency of the quantum era, well-being. They're valuable because they're radiating well-being. That alignment with their authentic self creates a frequency of energy that pulls us forward to do the same. And when you are fully embodying your authentic self, the fulfillment of the story of who you are, you are embodying an energy, a vibration, a frequency that influences people, that people want to be around, that people want to give invitations to, that people want to give you things to respond to. People want you to be a part of their lives because your energy pulls them forward to do the same. Your human design type only indicates the mechanics of how you interface with the tractor beam of goodness that is your life. It doesn't say anywhere that you're less than, less influential, less powerful, less essential, less valuable, or less anything because of your type. And I really want you to be mindful as you study your human design of all those little tiny places where we try to glom onto that, because you deserve way, way better than that. This is a story that helps you learn how to interface with that tractor beam of goodness. This isn't a story that limits what you can receive. It unlimits you. It shows you how you can expand what's possible for yourself. In the emerging quantum era, your frequency of energy is the most influential power you have. You create not by networking, yay, but with your vibe. Your vibrational frequency influences so that you're happy and your neighbors are happy and your friends are happy and your friends of your friends are happy because you created that with your frequency of energy. The most powerful thing you can do to increase your influence right now is be yourself. Unapologetically, uncompromisingly, do not settle for less than. And if you don't know who you are or what your dreams are, if you've forgotten them, and sometimes we do, go back and find a picture of yourself at 10, 11, and 12. That beautiful developmental cycle that we go through, where we have one foot still rooted in the imaginary world and one foot rooted into the forward moving possibility of who we're going to be world. And you still have access to your true magic. Go back and find those dreams. Go back and reconnect with what you love to do, those things you love to do so much that when you engage in those things, you lose track of time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your job, by the way. You've got to find yourself and live aligned with that self, that precious, irreplaceable, vital part of the cosmic plan that is you, to increase your influence. And because you all probably don't know this, but I am madly in love with Eleanor Roosevelt. I really, 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 really wish she was alive today. And I wish she was my grandmother. So this is a quotation from Eleanor Roosevelt. Remember always that you have not only the right to be an individual, but, and I believe this is true myself, an obligation to be one. Because here's the thing. When you live aligned with your authentic self, you minimize the pain you experience in your life. You access greater states of creativity and possibility. You have more to give and share with the world. You have a higher frequency of energy, and frequency of energy that is inclusive, expansive, equitable, and based in abundance, not lack. And when you create from that space and you hold that frequency of energy, and you're influencing the world with that frequency of energy, you're adding to the critical mass, the critical mass of energy necessary for us to shift this world from the materialistic era, an era that's rooted in material value, to the quantum era, where we begin to see that each and every incarnated human being on this planet is valuable, inherently valuable, because they exist. And because they're valuable, we all do what we need to do to make sure that we are all okay. That's why you're important. So I want to end with 3 opportunities that I have for you guys, just so that you're aware of what's going on and what we've been working on here. Number 1, and I'm just going to put the links here and give you like a 30-second overview. So, October 28, 29, no, sorry, 29, 30, 31. Go look at the dates on this. Go look at the website. It's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in October, at the end of the year, end of the month. If you are a woman who is looking to accelerate your impact in the world, that is whether you want to be on stage, that is whether you're going through a transition like a divorce, or you're redefining who you are, you're going through emptiness, you're really looking at how do you move more deeply into the fulfillment of your life purpose, and you want intimate personal work in an intensive retreat setting. This is going to be in a small, beautiful house on the shores of the St. Croix River in Stillwater, Minnesota, which sounds scary, but it's a beautiful place this time of year. It's fall, autumn leaves. We're bringing a personal chef. We've got a massage therapist coming. If you want to work deeply for 3 days with me, and we actually have an accountability coach coming with us, and find your voice, find your message, find your platform, find your impact, find your alignment, this is the event for you. I'm giving you a coupon code, not a coupon code. It's Let's Create. That gives you $500 off this event. We've got a couple of private rooms left. If you want a private room, please sign up and register with us today. Go to this webpage. We've done accelerator events for the last 2 years. We've seen women. We have one woman who at 80 years of age wrote her first book and then ended up on stage at Luminosity just a couple of months after she published her first book and discovered for herself her own power. We have another woman who is in her early 70s who's just written a whole series of books that she's channeled. It's an incredible, incredible program. The second event that I want to bring to your awareness, every year I hold an annual Human Design Conference. It's usually for my Human Design specialists. This year I'm opening up the conference for everyone, and I'm lengthening it. We're doing 4 days of intensive leadership work based on your human design. We're going to be using the brand new human design language that I've created. We're going to be using a process called the Quantum Narrative Rewrite Program. We're going to be exploring through storytelling, through activating that sensing circuit and getting out of the logic reasoning part of the brain, how you can create a new personal narrative that allows you to step more fully into the frequency of influence, the power of who you truly are. And again, for you, we have an early bird pricing, 400 off conference. It's actually 400 off CONF. Make sure you use the exclamation mark if you use the coupon code. That'll give you the early bird pricing. What is the early bird price again, Cindy? I forgot. I know we just redid that.
$7.97.
$7.97. So you're getting a $400 off. Yeah, off the full price. So that's in effect until September 15th. You can come live or you can come via live stream. So you can attend online if you can't make it live, but get there live if you can. And last but not least, we have just started our Master Alignment Program for September. This is a class that integrates energy psychology, the emotional freedom techniques, energy modalities, essential oils, flower essences, coaching, human design in these beautiful intensive group settings. We are currently going through a Master Alignment Program where we are deconditioning the 9 centers. The classes meet on Wednesdays. We have a morning session at 9 a.m. Central and an evening session at 7 p.m. Central. In conjunction with that, we also have open office hours on Friday. This is an extensive, beautiful transformative program. Some of you may have already gone through it. It is a sliding scale fee. If you feel like you want some support in clearing your energy so that you can become more aligned with who you are, Cindy, if you don't mind posting the link below in either in the Zoom and in the chat, you've probably already done it, if I know you. You can register, you still can register for this. It's still open. As I said, it's open for everyone. I can even point you to, if you need more information, just ping me in the comments below and I'll make sure you get access to more information about the program. Next week, we're going to talk about how to influence divine timing and how to live more aligned to your type and the real purpose of your human design type and how to understand the nature of how your type interfaces with the tractor beam of goodness. So, good. Huh.
I still love tractor beam. You went slightly over, so but there was lots of comments of people saying this was just an amazing talk. There was just one question that I saw going through everything.
That's it, one question?
Well, people were, so much information they wanted to listen. I'm sure there's a bunch that might come in, but what if fear and doubt are making it hard to invent a story about who we really are?
So sometimes when we are deeply conditioned by logic, it's hard to access the stories. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to either, before you engage in trying to write a new story, and by the way, you don't have to write it. Writing is one way of doing it. Sometimes you can do it with a creative project. I love to write. That's a good outlet for me. And sometimes if I'm really stuck or stretching myself, and actually we do this both in the accelerator programs and we'll be doing this in the retreat in November. Paint, finger paint, get a massage, go for a walk,
Interpretive dance.
Crochet. Interpretive dance is great. I do that a lot downstairs in the morning when I get down here. I have my little song that I play. That's my song. So do any kind of creative expression. Go play with Play-Doh. Go for a walk. Okay? Go outside. Go take a hot bath. Any event, anything you do that gets you out of the brain and gets you more into the body and gets you into the movement piece will activate the storytelling piece. And you don't have to, as I said, and don't lock yourself into thinking that you have to write it in language. You might do it totally different. You might create a play. You might write a song. You might make a crystal grid. It's up to you. And I think Cindy, she's asking for the link to the Master Alignment Program. So, good.
Let's do it once. But, and Elizabeth asked where they can look at more what the Master Alignment Program is. I would say the best place is to email, and it was on the latest email. It was on the reminder email.
Yeah, do that. Do that, and I'll just send you a copy of the email for sure. All right, good. And that's it? That's all the questions?
That's all the questions.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see you guys again next week. Thank you, Cindy, as always, for riding Side Saddle with me. You'll have a fabulous week. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Those of you in the U.S., have a great, great week. And be yourselves, because the world needs you to do that, and you deserve it. All right. Bye.